The movie begins on a road where a high school teenager, Robert, attempts suicide by riding his motorcycle off a bridge. His friend Jack hears the sound of the bike and notices his friend is nowhere in sight. He hurries off to stop him, but he is too late. Robert zooms off the cliff as Jack arrives. In a flashback, Robert and Jack are in class together but are distracted. Robert is caught drawing a storyboard in his notebook and fingers the necklace he wore at the movie's beginning. At the same time, Jack is asleep. She warns them that they will only get their high school diploma if they succeed in mathematics. She also threatens to inform their guardians about their poor grades. At that moment, a female classmate reveals to the teacher that Robert and Jack have a passion for filmmaking and so do not have time to study. The teacher smiles, acknowledging their talent, but her resolve remains the same. After school, Jack and Robert are on their way home when they notice a young, attractive woman walking on the street. The boys become distracted and stalk her. The boys become lustful of the woman as she walks by. The boys later notice the same woman at the pool and jump in after her. As she swims, the boys watch her, admiring her attractive body. She swims out of the pool and jumps back in, but this time her nipples are exposed. The boys smile to themselves. All this time, the woman doesn't notice the boys and goes about her swimming session undistracted. That night, the boys spy on the woman and her husband as they had followed her home. Jack wants to use binoculars to watch her undress, but Robert stops him and suggests that they leave. Jack then asks if Robert has edited his film, but he replies that he will edit it later that night, and the two boys decide to go home. The next day in class, the attractive woman is revealed to be Mrs. Jacqueline, the Polish literature teacher. Robert impresses her during a test, and she praises him. Robert is happy as he returns to his seat. Later, the class is made to watch Jack's film, which he hopes to submit for a film festival soon. Still, his classmates make fun of his movie, upsetting him and forcing Jacqueline to stop the film. She scolds and admonishes them to appreciate Jack's effort put into the film since being a filmmaker requires effort. The students seem unbothered still. Later that day, Robert comforts Jack when they are alone and tells him that their classmates are better off watching a movie in the cinema since none knows anything about making a film. He adds that he shouldn't be bothered by their taunting reaction to his movie earlier. They then edit the film and cut out a few minutes from the clip before submitting it. The next day, Jack and Robert lie to their classmates that Jacqueline has canceled their class for the day, so they will be the only ones to attend her class. When Jacqueline arrives, she is surprised that nobody showed up beside the boys. While she is in front of the class, the boys fantasize about her in many seductive outfits. They are snapped out of their fantasies when she draws their attention back to the class. She tells them she wants to smoke, and the boys join her at the school's rooftop. There, she and Robert get along very well. He tells her a joke and she laughs. She then compliments his sweatshirt, which Robert thanks and seizes the opportunity to hit on her. Jacqueline is flattered. He then asks if he can take pictures of her for a photo contest, and she agrees. He teases her about being able to swim, and she enjoys it. All this while, Jack feels jealous and left out, watching his friend and teacher get along. On a boat trip, Robert tells Jacqueline that he wants to get better grades in his math but needs to know how to go about it. She promises to help him talk to the math teacher about it, and then he proceeds or takes pictures of her while Jack spies on them. Jacqueline makes some seductive poses that make Robert even more attracted to her. That night, Robert goes through the printed photos of Jacqueline, but his mother angrily interrupts him. She yells at him for asking his teacher for better grades and scolds him for his poor performance at school and his dream to be a filmmaker. He tells her that he will sell his kidney to attend a private film school if he cannot go to college. His mother is more infuriated, but his father defends him and tells his mother to leave him alone. Later that night, he writes a letter to Jacqueline. The next day at school, Jack asks Robert how his session with Jacqueline went, as there was no photo contest. He also asks if he has been able to submit his film, and Robert nods. Soon after, Jacqueline arrives and apologizes for coming late to class, as she is distracted by a love letter written she found in her mailbox. Jack, infuriated that he failed his chemistry test, asks for a ride home, but Robert lies that he also has a math test to retake. When Jack leaves, Robert sees Jacqueline approach and offers her a ride home, but she declines, informing him that she has another class. Robert insists despite her refusal, and she hops on. The two ride to a secluded river where they spend time together and make out. Robert reveals that he wrote her the love letter and the two kiss. Sometime later, Jacqueline reveals to the class that she will go on a school trip with them. Everyone is happy, including Robert. On the trip, Robert looks around for Jacqueline and finds his math teacher in the staff cabin. He throws away the flowers he brought for Jacqueline. When he eventually sees her talking with other students, Jack interrupts and asks him to join in to play volleyball. Robert hesitantly agrees. Later, everyone is partying the night away, but Robert again looks around for Jacqueline. This time, he sees her in the staff cabin with the math teacher. He sneaks in and the two leave the cabin, sneaking through the woods in the rain. Jack sees them, but they do not notice him. Robert and Jacqueline then have sex in another cabin. After the trip, they return home. Robert then spies on her and her husband, fantasizing about being her husband. The next day at school, Robert discovers pictures of him and Jacqueline all over the school. He sees Jacqueline in the principal's office. She is in tears as the principal berates her. The students taunt him about sleeping with his teacher to get better grades in his literature. Realizing what had happened, Robert confronts Jack, who denies having anything to do with the pictures. Robert becomes infuriated and thrashes the hallway. He runs off and finds a devastated Jacqueline packing her things and leaving. He stops her and tells her he wants to go with her, but she ignores him. She sarcastically asks if he plans to run away with her and marry her now that her marriage and career are in shambles. She tells him to return to his studies and drives off. Robert is devastated as she drives off. He then cycles to the river where he and Jacqueline made out earlier and drives his motorcycle off the bridge, but he doesn't fall off. Robert rushes after him and pulls him up. The two boys begin to laugh. Robert laughs at the silliness of his short but great time with Jacqueline, and Jack apologizes for taking and exposing the pictures. Robert forgives him, and the two boys become friends again. Jack tells him they should return to making movies, and Robert agrees. They pick up his motorcycle and begin their long walk home. That was all from the video. Subscribe to this channel to watch more content like this. See you next time.